Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be digging into something you might not expect.
Oh,
Yeah, the financial performance of the Indian Railway Finance Corporation.
what?
You might know it as IRFC.
Right.
We've got their reports, and we're going to find out what's driving their success.
Sounds good.
And get this, there's even some stuff in there about sustainability.
Interesting.
Yeah. So to kick things off, what are the key figures from IRFC's Q2 FY25 financials?
Well, IRFC just released those Q2 FY25 results, and the numbers are pretty interesting.
Okay.
They reported a revenue of Rs, 5,276.83 crores,
Wow.
which is a pretty big jump from 4,533.58 crores in the same quarter last year.
Okay.
And their net profit, even more impressive.
Really?
Yeah, it hit Rs, 1,548.48 crores, up from Rs, 1,359.50 crores the year before.
Okay, so revenue and profits are both up.
Yeah.
And you mentioned something about a dividend earlier.
Right.
What does that mean for someone following IRFC?
Well, they've declared an interim dividend, and specifically Rs 0.50 per equity share. So if you hold IRSC shares, you'll get a portion of the company's profits.
Gotcha.
The record date to be eligible for this is October 22nd, 2024.
Okay.
And they'll pay it out by November 7th, 2024 at the latest.
That's good to know for anyone thinking about investing.
Yeah.
Now, let's dive into what's behind these strong numbers.
Okay.
What's the story there?
One major factor is their interest income.
Okay.
It's seen a year-on-year increase, suggesting their core business, which is lending for railway projects,
Right.
is doing really well.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And this is likely connected to India's big push for infrastructure development,
You mean like,
especially in the railway sector.
oh,
As the government puts money into expanding and modernizing the railways, IRFC benefits from that increased demand for financing.
so they're not just riding the rails, they're financing them.
Exactly.
Clever,
Yeah.
but strong performance isn't all about making more money, right?
Right.
It's also about managing costs well.
Absolutely.
So how are they doing on that front?
Well, the reports don't specifically give us a cost-to-income ratio.
What's that?
It basically measures how well a company manages its expenses compared to its earnings.
Okay.
But the fact that IRC's profit is growing faster than its revenue, that suggests they're keeping a close eye on their spending.
So they're making smart decisions, not just growing for the sake of it.
Right.
That's a good sign for any potential investor.
Definitely.
Now, how does IRFC stack up against others in the railway finance sector? Are they the only game in town?
Well, our sources don't give us a detailed comparison with competitors this time.
Oh,
But the fact that IRFC is showing such strong growth and profitability
yeah.
does indicate they're in a good spot within the sector.
Okay,
It would be interesting to dig into their competition more in the future, though.
it would. Now let's look ahead.
Okay.
What clues do we have about IRFC's future outlook? Are there any challenges on the horizon?
The sources we have don't give any specific predictions from IRFC, but it's logical to think that their future is pretty tied to India's overall infrastructure plans.
Right.
The government's commitment to developing the railway network will likely mean more business opportunities for IRFC.
So their success is linked to the success of India's infrastructure goals.
Yeah, pretty much.
Speaking of which, you mentioned sustainability earlier.
Right.
What can you tell us about IRFC's approach to this, increasingly important area?
Well, it's worth noting that IRFC actually mentions sustainability in their financial reporting.
Interesting.
This suggests they know it's becoming more important for investors and stakeholders.
Okay.
Now, the reports don't go into specifics about initiatives or goals,
Right.
but it's a signal that IRFC is aligning itself with the broader trend of sustainable finance.
So more of an introductory nod to sustainability.
Yeah, exactly.
Rather than a detailed plan.
For now.
Okay, we'll have to watch how they develop this further.
Definitely.
All right, we've covered quite a bit already, but we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's a lot more to explore.
Up next, we'll take a closer look at IRFC's operational performance and really dig into how they're achieving these results.
That sounds good.
We just looked at IRFC's financials, those revenue and profit figures.
Right.
But to really understand a company, we need to go deeper.
Yeah.
What about IRFC's operational performance?
You're right, that's key.
For those who don't know, this means how well they're running their core business.
Exactly.
So what can you tell us about that?
Well, the reports don't give us specific numbers, like how many loans they gave out
Okay.
or exactly how much their assets grew, but we can get some clues from their statement of assets and liabilities.
What's that?
Think of it like a snapshot of what IRFC owns
Okay,
and what it owes.
gotcha. So what stands out to you in that snapshot?
One thing that jumps out is the growth in their total assets.
How much?
They went from Rs2 4,681.94 crores in September 2023
Okay.
to Rs 4,929.24 crores in September 2024.
So they've been expanding.
Yeah, which makes sense since their revenue's up too.
Bigger balance sheet, bigger business,
Usually, yeah.
but is bigger always better? What about efficiency?
That's the key question.
How do we know if they're using their resources well?
Efficiency is about doing more with less.
Right.
We'd ideally look at their cost-to-income ratio,
Uh-huh.
which basically tells us how much they spend for every rupee they earn.
Okay.
But unfortunately, our sources don't have that exact number.
Mm.
However, their profit is growing faster than their revenue,
Yeah.
which is a good sign.
Means they're managing costs well.
Exactly, while also making more money.
Smart spending and smart growth.
Yeah, good combo.
Let's look at a key part of their business model.
Okay,
Interest income.
right,
This is the money they make from lending, right?
exactly. It's their bread and butter.
Okay.
The revenue analysis doesn't separate out interest income,
Hmm.
but their total revenue from operations for Q2 FY25 was Rs 5,276.83 crores, up from Rs 4,533.58 crores the year before.
So that's a big jump.
Yeah, and it suggests their core lending business is doing really well.
They're riding the wave of India's infrastructure boom.
Exactly.
Smart.
Yeah.
Now, let's think like investors.
Okay.
Knowing what we know about IRFC's performance,
Right.
what are the key takeaways for someone thinking about investing?
Well, you need to understand that investing in IRFC
Yeah.
is kind of like investing in the growth of India's railways.
Interesting.
Their strong financials show the government is serious about infrastructure,
Right.
which is good news for IRFC's future.
And their dividend declaration is a bonus for shareholders.
Absolutely. It
Right.
shows they're happy to share profits with investors.
Always a good sign.
Yeah.
Okay, but every investment has risks.
Sure.
What could go wrong for IRFC?
Well, the sources don't get into specific risks,
Okay.
but we can think about some possibilities.
Like what?
For one, any economic slowdown could affect government spending,
Makes sense.
which would directly hit IRFC's business.
So their fate is tied to the Indian economy.
Pretty much, yeah.
What else?
Another factor is interest rates.
Okay.
If those go up, IRFC's borrowing costs could increase, and that would squeeze their profits.
And what about competition?
Right.
What if new players enter the market?
That's a valid point.
Right.
More competition could mean lower interest rates,
Yeah.
which could hurt their profitability.
So there are definitely some things to consider.
Yeah.
Now, let's go back to that sustainability mention.
Okay.
It's great they're aware of it,
Yeah.
but what are they actually doing to be more sustainable?
Yeah, it's great they're thinking about sustainability.
Definitely.
But as you said, we don't have a lot of details.
Right. It's more like they're interested, but we don't know their plan yet.
Exactly. So for our listeners who care about sustainability,
Yeah.
it's worth doing some more research.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe check out their corporate social responsibility report,
A good idea.
or see if you can find info about their environmental and social projects.
Yeah, that's smart. You know, talking about IRFC's business, it really hit me how connected their success is to India's economy.
That's true.
They're not just funding trains,
Right.
they're funding growth.
It's all connected.
Remember those loans to railway companies?
Yeah,
It's a big part of what they do,
it is.
but it also represents something much bigger.
It does, yeah.
It's the link between IRFC, the railways, and India's development.
Absolutely.
It's easy to focus on the numbers,
Right.
but we're really talking about the engine driving India's growth.
Exactly. By funding these projects, IRFC is helping expand India's transportation network.
Which then affects the whole economy, right?
Yeah, it makes trade easier, connects different places,
Yeah.
helps people and goods move around.
And all of that is essential for economic growth.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So they're more than just a financial company.
Yeah,
They're helping India become a global economic powerhouse.
exactly. And as India grows, IRFC's role will probably become even more important.
So for our listeners who've been with us on this deep dive into IRFC, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
IRFC is a company with a great growth story.
Okay.
It's connected to India's huge infrastructure plans.
Yeah.
They have strong financials, they offer dividends, and they're interested in sustainability. So for investors who want to be part of India's growth story,
Right.
they're worth looking into.
That's a great summary. But of course, investors should always do their research.
Absolutely, always.
What advice would you give to someone thinking about adding IRFC to their portfolio?
Don't just look at the headlines.
Okay.
Really dig into IRFC's lending portfolio.
What does that mean?
Look at what kinds of railway projects they're financing. And think about the risks involved with those projects.
To really understand the story behind the numbers.
Exactly. That will give you a better idea of their risk profile.
What else?
Keep up with what's happening in India's economy.
Yeah.
Things like economic growth, inflation, government policies. Those things can really affect how well IRFC does.
Their success is tied to India's success.
Exactly.
Any final thoughts?
Don't forget about sustainability.
Right.
We've talked about how IRFC is interested in it.
They are.
But it's important to see if they actually take action.
Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. For investors who care about ESG factors, this is a key thing to watch.
Excellent points. We've covered a lot today.
We have.
IRFC's financials, their operations, their role in India's growth.
Yeah.
But here's something to think about.
Okay.
As India develops and modernizes, companies like IRFC will be leading the way.
I agree.
Their success is tied to India's progress.
Very much so.
And that makes them a company to keep an eye on.
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of IRFC.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.